We've seen marches and the protests only grow in recent months and weeks. Now police reform takes center stage, with lawmakers and the governor calling for some sort of change. Governor Tim Walz and DFL lawmakers addressed police reform Thursday in St. Paul, saying they want to measure past this legislative session.
There's an intersection here of a lot of commonality. And so the work that we have and the potential that we have to show the rest of the country where potential change can come, where we can bring folks together to make sure that if a young man like Dante Wright is stopped, that he doesn't die for that traffic violation, and we figure out ways.
Local House lawmakers were in attendance, including Speaker of the House Melissa Hortman and Representative Cedric Frazier. The House passed a police reform bill days ago that called for several changes, including not allowing officers to stop drivers for petty violations like expired license tabs or a broken turn signal.
Minnesotans are calling for action now, and the Minnesota House of Representatives stands with them. We hear them, and we are determined to enact meaningful police reform and accountability provisions this year.
There were also calls for new police accountability measures here in the northwest suburbs.
Our black and brown neighbors in Minnesota across the state remain in grave danger from police misconduct, and our faiths call us here to tell Senator Warren Limmer to conduct these promised hearings right away, transparently and in public now.
Thursday morning, the faith-based coalition known as Isaiah gathered in front of Maple Grove City Hall to call on State Senator Warren Limmer to hold hearings on police accountability. Limmer is the Republican chair of the Senate's Judiciary and Public Safety Committee.
As a faith leader in his district, I am here to join my voice in calling on him to take immediate action on police accountability. It is the moral and faithful thing to do.
We sat down and spoke to Senator Warren Limmer earlier this week, and one of the topics we asked him about was police reform. Here is what he had to say.
Now, of course, since the Derek Chauvin trial, there's been a lot of focus on police reform. You guys passed a public safety bill a few weeks ago, but of course there's a little bit of criticism that it didn't have enough. What do you see happening in that arena?
Well, again, we focused on a budget year on the budget in the public safety bill. However, some of our colleagues in the House want more police reform, and as we're beginning to look at their police reform, we also realized that we did a lot of reform in this area last summer. Immediately after the Chauvin, George Floyd death, we started working on that. It's hard to do major reform in a highly emotional environment, especially only mere days after the death of George Floyd. We did our best. We prohibited chokeholds. We increased training for police officers. We focused on mental illness awareness. We talked about bringing down a hostile environment. We improved training on it. Now the House wants to go in a different direction. They want to get rid of qualified immunity. That's when police officers can do their job, and if there happens to be a civil law lawsuit over something they did, right now the current practice is you sue the city, you sue the employer. This goes in a different direction. It goes after the employee, the police officer. Keep in mind, police officers don't make a lot of money. There's not a lot of money to be had by a civil law case. And we're trying to understand the motivation of that. Is the motivation to get money on behalf of the victim or the victim's family? Or is it more coming out of the motive of retribution? You know, all of these cases are tragic. Every death should affect all of us. But we also have to keep in mind, we need police officers. And if some of these proposals come in, police officers have already said, we can't work in this environment, we will quit this career, we'll move out of state. And so we have to create that balance that's so vitally important. And so we're very cautious about that.
And very tough too. Very tough, tall order.
It's very tough, and then again, it's in an environment of high emotion, and it's painful to hear the stories, but at the same time, it's also painful to hear of the stories when police officers are attacked and slain. And so we have to be careful as we proceed.
We interviewed Representative Cedric Frazier on this topic as well. You can see his full interview on ccxmedia.org. Plymouth police arrested a person they believe was driving a car that struck and killed a pedestrian Wednesday night. Police say it happened just before 9 o'clock at the intersection of County Road 24 and 32nd Avenue North. The driver struck the person and then drove away. Golden Valley police located the car a few hours after the crash, and a suspect was arrested and is booked for criminal vehicular homicide, pending formal charges by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. And finally, some accolades are due to a local business who pitched in and helped on Monday during the firearm incident at Plymouth Middle School. Robbinsdale School shared this photo with us. Staff say on Monday, the New Hope Hy-Vee gathered and delivered 150 hot meals plus water and snacks for staff and first responders. The Hy-Vee store director said some of the store's employees have children who attend the school, so they wanted to help out. Interim Superintendent Stephanie Barrage said this is an inspiring example of neighbors helping neighbors.